So now let's take a look at how you can score yourself within the three selves underneath roles and characteristics. If at any time you need to pause the video, I recommend you do so. But here what you're going to need is a piece of paper and something to write with. And it's helpful if you just create a chart. And within that chart on the top column, you'll have a column for your real self, a column for your public self, and a column for your ideal self. Let's start with the role of a friend. So writing in the far left, friend, or whichever role or characteristic you're evaluating, on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the best score you would give yourself, and 1 being the worst, identify what score you would give yourself within each self. For me, my real self is pretty similar to my public self because unfortunately I always fall trapped to wanting to be accepted by others, and so how I act is sometimes dictated by the thoughts and feelings of another person, and therefore how I actually show up is similar to my public self score. And finally, my ideal self score is actually lower than my real self score because I truly want to be authentically better than how I'm currently showing up. And so this awareness for me allows me to say, hey, Haley, allow yourself to be vulnerable sometimes, knowing that not everyone is going to accept what you say, do, or believe. And therefore, by doing that, your real self becomes higher. And ultimately, people who are attracted to that authentic, vulnerable person will also allow this score to be higher. And eventually, this score can map to this score. Now, let's take a look at another characteristic, listener. This is a tough one because we are always thinking about different things in our mind while other people are speaking, whether it's how we're going to respond or what we think about what they said. And so, in terms of my real self, I actually am a good listener. I'm going to give myself a 9. In terms of my public self, I've been told and been given tons of feedback that I do a really good job of listening. And then in terms of my ideal self, listening for me actually aligns with my real self. But I'm not perfect, and therefore I know that I can improve on all of these as I continue to stay focused on the task of listening. Now, when you look at your chart and the different roles and characteristics that you'll be evaluating in the different selves, there might be a few like stubborn that can be tricky. So this sometimes is conceived as a negative characteristic, which it is. So do you want to have a high score in that? No, you actually want to be more towards that 1 versus that 10. So don't get too confused. Just make sure you know if it's negative in your eyes in terms of being stubborn, the score you would give yourself in each of those 3 should reflect that more towards the lower end of the scale.